Snow fell softly over the small town of Willow Creek, painting every rooftop and lamppost in white. It was Christmas Eve, and the grocery store at the corner of Main Street buzzed with the usual last-minute rush, families grabbing cranberry sauce, children tugging at their parents for candy canes, and the hum of carols playing through the store's speakers. Near aisle 5, Martha Evans, a 67-year-old widow, pushed her cart slowly. Her hands trembled slightly, the kind of tremor that came with age and worry. Inside her cart were only a few essentials: a loaf of bread, a small carton of milk, a bag of potatoes, and one frozen turkey she had been saving coupons for since early December. She whispered to herself, just enough for dinner with the kids. That's all we need. It had been a difficult year. Her daughter, Emma, had gone through a painful divorce and moved back home with 2 young children. Money was tight, but Martha refused to let her grandkids wake up to an empty Christmas table. As she approached the checkout counter, she smiled politely at the cashier, a young woman wearing a Santa hat and an exhausted smile. Martha placed her items on the conveyor belt, neatly and carefully, as if each one carried her hope for a happy Christmas. When the cashier read out the total, $83.47, Martha's heart sank. She reached into her purse, counted her money twice, and realized she was short. She tried to hide her embarrassment as she removed the turkey and slid it aside. "Just these, please," she said softly. The cashier hesitated. "Ma'am, are you sure?" Before Martha could answer, a deep voice from behind her spoke. "Put the turkey back on." Martha turned. Behind her stood a tall young man in a grease-stained hoodie, Jake Turner, 29, a mechanic from the local auto shop. He had come to grab some snacks after a long shift, but watching the elderly woman's quiet struggle tugged at something deep inside him. "I can't let you do that," Martha said quickly, clutching her purse tighter. Jake smiled gently. "You're not letting me. I'm doing it." The cashier looked from one to the other, unsure. Jake nodded. "Go ahead. Add it to my bill." Martha's eyes glistened with tears. "You don't even know me." "I don't need to," Jake replied. "I just remember when someone once did the same for my mom. She never forgot it, and neither did I." The cashier finished ringing the items. Jake swiped his card, and the screen flashed, "Approved." Martha's voice cracked as she whispered, "Thank you. I'll pay you back someday." Jake shook his head. "Just pay it forward, okay?" He gave her a warm nod and picked up his own small bag of groceries. Martha, overwhelmed, reached out to touch his arm. "Merry Christmas, son." "Merry Christmas, ma'am," he replied, smiling. Gift later that night. Back at home, Martha unpacked the groceries while her grandchildren decorated a small artificial tree. She roasted the turkey with tears of gratitude in her eyes. When dinner was ready, she told them the story of the kind man who made it possible. Her grandson, Ethan, looked up and said, "Grandma, he sounds like a Christmas angel." Martha smiled. Maybe he was. Before going to bed, she sat at her small wooden desk and wrote a note on a piece of floral stationery. Greater than, Dear Jake. You didn't just buy a turkey tonight. You gave a family hope, warmth, and a reason to believe in kindness again. You never know whose prayer you're answering. Martha. She tucked the note into an envelope and planned to leave it at the grocery store's service counter in the morning, hoping the clerk could pass it to the kind stranger. Snowflake. Meanwhile, across town. Jake returned to his small apartment, dropping his groceries on the counter. It had been a long week of late-night repairs, and he had planned to spend Christmas alone, watching movies with takeout pizza. But as he sat on his couch, he couldn't shake the image of the old woman's eyes, filled with both gratitude and heartbreak. It reminded him of his mother, Lydia Turner, who had passed away 3 Christmases ago after a long illness. He remembered the year they couldn't afford much, no gifts, no fancy dinner, until a stranger at a diner paid for their meal. His mom had cried that night and told him, "Jake, kindness is like a chain. When someone helps you, you don't break it, you pass it on." Jake smiled sadly, whispering, "Guess I finally kept the chain going, Mom." Sunrise Christmas morning. Martha woke early, bundled up, and walked back to the grocery store with the note in hand. The snow had thickened overnight, blanketing the streets. Inside the store, the same cashier was working the early shift. "Good morning," Martha said kindly. "Do you remember the young man who helped me yesterday?" The cashier nodded immediately. The mechanic. Yeah, he's in here all the time. Left his name on the receipt, Jake Turner. Martha handed over the envelope. Would you please give him this when you see him? The cashier smiled. Of course. Martha left, feeling lighter than she had in months. Cloud with snow later that afternoon. Jake stopped by the store again, this time to grab some coffee and snacks. The cashier waved him over. Hey, someone left this for you, she said, handing him the small envelope. He frowned, curious, and opened it. As his eyes moved over the words, his throat tightened. He read it again, slower this time, his hand trembling slightly over the signature, Martha. He swallowed hard. He hadn't realized that a small gesture could ripple like that. Without thinking, he put on his jacket and drove to the cemetery just outside town, where his mother was buried. The snow crunched beneath his boots as he knelt by her grave. He placed the note on the headstone, weighted by a small pine cone. Hey, Mom, he whispered. You told me kindness comes back around. Guess you were right. For a long moment, he just sat there, the winter wind cold on his face, but his heart warm. Shooting star that evening. As night fell on Willow Creek, Christmas lights twinkled on every porch. Inside Martha's home, laughter filled the air as her grandkids tore open gifts wrapped in old newspaper. Across town, Jake sat by his window, looking out at the snowfall. On his table sat a plate of cookies he'd baked himself, and beside it, the copy of the receipt from the grocery store. He'd kept it as a reminder that even the smallest kindness could change a life. He smiled, whispering again, Merry Christmas, Mom. Outside, church bells rang softly, echoing through the snowy town, a reminder that sometimes, the greatest gifts aren't wrapped in ribbons or paper, but in simple, human kindness.